This is the Broadcasting Corporation of Biafra, BCB, bringing you news, cultural, and educational programs. This is BCB, the Broadcasting Corporation of Biafra.
Freedom is a spiritual deity. Freedom and liberty and justice shall fight for you. When you fight for freedom with all your soul, take it from me. This is Broadcasting Corporation of Biafra, BCB, the voice of the nation, the voice of the rising sun.
Biafrans, this is Rosama, and this is BCB, the Broadcasting Corporation of Biafra. We are rebroadcasting the leadership message from BGIE, Biafra Government in Exile, from our previous program. Because this is important. Because the message reminds us of the significance of working together in collaboration and also under a single umbrella, under the leadership of BGIE. Yes, we may retain our unique differences, but our goal is singular, the restoration of Biafra. In this case, it is important for us to come home, to work under one umbrella, and to work towards achieving this singular goal. So, here again is the leadership message from BGIE. Listen.
Good evening and welcome once again to our program this Sunday. I want to start by sending special greetings to every Biafran and friends of Biafra all over the world. Everyone who's been working incredibly hard towards the agitation for the restoration of the independent state of Biafra. It is the right thing to do, it is our duty, and by the help of God, we will achieve it. Let me begin by giving certain clarification in relation to some of the information we gave out in previous broadcasts. I want to be clear that unity is required in our struggle. Numerous groups and organizations that are agitating for Biafra, this is time for us to close ranks and to work together. We are making progress. A lot of alliances are being formed. A lot of people are coming together. But I want to be clear that Indigenous People of Biafra, IPOB, is one group, ably led by Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. We all know that he is being unduly detained by the Nigerian government. We all know that his detention is illegal. His extraordinary rendition from Kenya is illegal. And there is no way anyone should be held in solitary detention for this long without trial. In his wisdom and knowledge, Nnamdi appointed Simon Ekpa to speak on his behalf. That Biafrans should listen to him, IPOB members should listen to him. I give credit to Simon for carrying out this duty in the best possible way, with determination, with conviction, with all the strength that he can muster, because the job is a Herculean one. is a difficult one, but he has embraced it with dignity, with purpose, and with truth. And I wish him well, and I continue to pray for the unconditional release of his leader, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. Today I will sound a warning that was given about a decade ago by the leadership of Biafra Government in Exile and Biafra Foundation through Voice of Biafra International, broadcasting from Washington over 10 years ago. Those warnings are still real, those threats are still real, and even more pressing today. I urge every Biafran, friends of Biafra, to take these warnings very seriously. Our very existence depends on them. It is important that we understand and fight the Fulani jihad that is going on in the Middle Belt and southern Nigeria. 15 years ago, Biafra Government in Exile warned that the Fulani terrorists and the Sokoto Caliphate have perfected plans to overrun indigenous communities, take over their ancestral land, and Islamize them by force. BGIE made it truly clear that the plan was not only meant for Biafra, but the entire Middle Belt and the South too. So when the Caliphate and the jihadists started implementing this evil plot of land grabbing and Islamization, BGIE and Biafra Foundation raised the alarm over 10 years ago. Some clear examples exist. About 2 weeks before their planned attacks on places like Newman, Jalingo, Wukari, Shandam, southern Kaduna, and southern parts of Sokoto around Zuru, we warned that the attacks would happen. And guess what? They did. In the last 15 years, the land grab and Islamization plot of the Fulani jihadists have progressed massively and now have engulfed every square inch of territory in the Middle Belt, Eastern region and Western region, and even Lagos. What has the political, religious, military, socio-cultural, and even intellectual leaders done to stem this catastrophe and save their people? Nothing. Note the large number of nations that are being terrorized, subjugated, and humiliated by a few million Fulani oligarchs and a handful of Hausa collaborators and lieutenants. Just take a look at them. The Birom people, the Bariba, the Busa, the Chamba, Edo, Efik, Ekoi, Gware, Ibibio, Ibaria, Ishekiri, Idoma, Ijo, Igala, Igbo, Nupe, the Maji, Tiv, Urobo, and the Yoruba. The population of these nations is more than 10 times that of the Fulani, who are terrorizing and humiliating them. Yet they remain cowed and slavishly subservient. Why is that? The answer is very clear: poor leadership. The leaders of these nations, out of fear, greed, avarice, blind hatred, lack of foresight, and especially psychotic ambition, allowed themselves to be hoodwinked and conned into unquestioning belief in the fantasy of one Nigeria. The Fulani, who are experts at corruption, corrupted these leaders with money, bribery and corruption, promises of political appointments. Once they corrupt them and they are compromised, they are plunged into the Maccabee song and dance of one Nigeria without ever asking for whom and for what. The Fulani set up straw enemies for them, and that enemy is called Biafra. Then asked these leaders, including religious leaders, to fight Biafra, their common enemy, with all the zeal they can muster, and to the last ounce of their blood. And they do, killing 3 million Biafrans, starved 2 million children and old people to death, and killing another 1 million. Today, leaders of these nations, including those from Biafra, who perpetrated this genocide, are consumed by shame and disgust. But they have padlocked their lips never to utter the words, "I am sorry. I was wrong." None of them, including some clergy, have had the humility to say sorry. I was wrong in committing genocide on innocent people of Biafra and believing slavishly in the fantasy of one Nigeria. It's unraveling now. We can all see today what is happening. Attacks even on Abuja as the terrorists and the jihadists close in. Let us put this aside for now, because all these nations are now facing serious threats to their very existence, to life, to liberty, and continued ownership and control of their ancestral land at the hands of Fulani land grabbers and jihadists. Even Hausa communities are increasingly experiencing terror at the hands of the Fulani. In every part of the Middle Belt and the South, communities are being savagely attacked and destroyed by Fulani mercenaries disguised as cattle herders. They kill men, women, and children, often in their sleep. They burn down people's homes, businesses, farms, and churches. They rape women and girls with impunity and destroy harvests stored in barns. They kidnap people on the highways and from their homes and demand millions of naira in ransom payments. Our children are afraid to go to school. Our men and women are afraid to go to their farms, churches, and businesses. Traders and business people are afraid to travel. And what has the Islamic Federal Government of Nigeria done about this? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Recall that the primary responsibility of any government, federal or state, or local government, is to adequately provide for the safety and security of the lives and property of their citizens. In Nigeria today, every institution and instrument of security and defense is in the hands of the Fulani and is literally controlled and commanded by the Fulani. Every single one of them. Today, it is impossible to differentiate between Fulani mercenaries being shipped into the Middle Belt and southern Nigeria and the Nigerian army and police. They are one and the same. Citizens of the Middle Belt and the South are strictly forbidden to own, possess, or carry any weapons, including locally made guns. Infringement of this order of the Fulani Jihadist federal government of President Muhammadu Buhari carries very severe penalty. Yet, Fulani mercenaries pretending to be herdsmen openly carry automatic assault rifles slung over their shoulders, and they pass army and police checkpoints and roam over streets and forests. The Nigerian jihadist army and the police simply watch and salute them in bemused joy as they parade their assault rifles on their soil. Our question to the people of the Middle Belt and the South is, what do you think is happening? How is it that a few thousand Fulani missionaries pretending to be cattle herders are terrorizing millions of us? This is what is going on in the Middle Belt and Southern Nigeria. As this confusion and mistrust spread and take root, and the Fulani jihadists entrench themselves through such nonsensical pronouncements as Igbo presidency, Yoruba presidency, South-South presidency, Middle Belt presidency, and so on. How is it that a few thousand Fulani missionaries continue to terrorize us and deceive people so that they can grab people's lands? Millions of people living in their ancestral homes from southern Kaduna to Jos, and the east to Newman, then south to Calabar, to Opobo, to Port Harcourt, and on to Lagos, and all the land in between. How is it possible? Here is how Usman Danfodio, with a handful of Fulani Islamic jihadists, conquered, Islamized, and enslaved the Hausa states in the north in the early 1800s. Recall that the Hausa states were originally not Muslims. They practiced their traditional religion. But Usman Danfodio, while proselytizing Islam to them, set one community against another by accusing one of not practicing true Islamic teachings. As the two communities fought each other over who was practicing the true religion of the new religion, Usman Danfodio watched and soon identified the side that was winning the fight. He and his jihadists then joined them and subdued the losing side. Then he absorbed the fighters of the winning side into his jihadist army, killing off the leaders of the two communities by accusing them of corruption. He replaced those leaders with his Fulani brothers as emirs of the newly conquered territory, and then moved on to instigate same fight in other Hausa communities. This was how Usman Danfodio and a handful of Fulani Islamic jihadists swept through Sokoto, Zaria, Kano, Katsina, Kaduna, and Nguru before sweeping southwards to do the same thing in Gombe, Muri, Bauchi, and Yola. This is how you have Fulani emirs virtually enslaving and ruling with iron fists Hausa and other ethnic nationalities in their own homelands in all these places. This is how the Fulani established political control over a vast area of northern Nigeria. But they were unable to penetrate parts of Kanem in Borno, parts of Kebbi, Jukun Kingdom, Tiv, Idoma, parts of Oyo Empire, and the rest of southern Nigeria, including all eastern Nigeria, homeland of the Igbo, Efik, Ibibio, Ijo, Ogoja, the Urobos, Edo, as well as all of Yoruba land. Now they are poised to invade and take over these territories as Usman Danfodio did in 1804. How can they do this in this 21st century? It's simple. They have started using the same tactic used by Usman Danfodio in the early 1800s with slight modifications. What they are doing now is to instigate crisis in several communities in the Middle Belt, the Southwest and the Southeast, sometimes between two nationalities such as Igbo and Ijo, Urobo and Ishekiri, Ekiti and Ijebu, Nupe and Gwari. At other times, they focus on organizations in these different nations For example, MASOB, IPOB, LNC, and PANDEV, NINAS, OPC, YNM. Most prominently, they use so-called political parties as well. They fan the embers of conflict and hatred among these groups. As these groups fight among themselves, the Fulani Islamic jihadists present themselves to one group as their supporter and savior. Then they use the leaders in these communities to deceive the masses into believing that they are truly their friends, allies, and even savior. They've done this in the Middle Belt, and they use things like presidencies to entice and deceive. As the people preoccupy their minds with these distractions, the jihadists strengthen their stranglehold in these areas, and soon the people begin to see the jihadists as their saviors from their neighbors, who they have been deceived into regarding as their enemies. By the time they realize their foolishness, it will be too late. They have been conquered. They have lost their freedom and liberty. Their land and private property have been taken away. They have lost their right to practice their Christian religion. They are now under the thumb of the Fulani emirs, who exercise the power of life and death over them. They now realize that whatever happens to their neighbors, the Fulani deceitfully convinced them to hate, is what is going to happen to them too. In essence, their destiny is intertwined with that of their neighbor. So whatever happens to the Igbo will happen to the Ijaw, will happen to the Efik, because their destiny is interwoven. So what should the people of the Middle Belt and South do now? Immediately. It's already too late. They have only one option, not two, to separate themselves from Nigeria now. Stop believing and pretending that you can fix Nigeria. It is impossible. You can't do it. Your survival depends on your willingness to establish independent states of Biafra, of Oduduwa, and the Middle Belt. The only option open to them, to everyone now, is to fight with everything available to them, be it referendum, plebiscite, or other means, and never stop until you have separated yourself from Nigeria and expelled every Fulani jihadist from your land. If you do not want to end up like the Hausa in the north, you must fight back now until you have expelled every jihadist from your territory. It will be long, it will be hard, it will be painful, and it will be disruptive. But this is the only option the peoples of the Middle Belt, Eastern and Western region have. Do it now, or wait and lose everything, from your land to your freedom to your religion. It is up to you. Those who want to continue to stay in one Nigeria should be free to do so. Very soon, the consequences will dawn on everyone, and it will be a very high price to pay. It will have a severe impact on future generations. So the actions we take today, very seriously, will determine whether we swim or we drown. Thank you, and God bless you for listening. Join us again next Sunday. God bless you, and may God bless and protect our nation, Biafra.
This is BCB.
I welcome every one of you to this
great segment on security consultancy. This is BCB Broadcasting Corporation of Biafra, and today we shall be looking into a very important situation and issues that has been trending for some time under what we title in today's topic, Ndibu, time to place every corrupt Igbo man where they belong. Ndibu, time to place every corrupt Igbo politician where they belong. My brothers and sisters, those of you in diaspora and those of you in Alibo vis-a-vis our nation Biafra, I want us to understand that there comes a time when situations must be tackled headway. I choose to understand that the peace, the relative peace that has been existing in our polity as Ndibo, actually has been in our hand. Because if we look at situations on how some of these corrupt politicians, or rather politicians, as I call them, the kind of brazen, unwarranted display of false courage and falsehood of authority just because we chose them or they force themselves over us as representatives. Today we shall be looking at one of the most recent issues that have been trending on social media and which has raised a lot of dust in Igbo land and in diaspora also. We have been battling with the wickedness of the Hausa Fulanis, ranging from raping our women, organ harvesting of our youths, kidnapping of our people, both young and old, for ransoms ranging from 100 million to 200 million to thousands of naira, to terrorism which has made people not to travel within Alibo in peace. As I'm talking to you, those of you that knows Enugu Port Harcourt Aba Expressway from Okigwe to Enugu right now is no-go area. We are still battling with these evils, still trying to come to sense of reality if actually these things are happening in our time. Many have asked this question: what have we Ndibo, what have we Biafran done to merit this kind of wickedness? When we come into this country, Nigeria, when you talk about resources, when you talk about manpower, when you talk about intellectualism, when you talk about positive vibrations, synergy energy that make things work in a nation, it is we the Igbos. When you talk about the resources that builds a nation, it is we the Igbos. Nothing has ever come out tangibly from the north. The gold mine that is in Niger State is owned by Babangida and the rest of them. Other mineral resources that is from Sokoto and Kanu, they have personalized it. But the resources that came from Igbo land, vis-a-vis Biafran land, has been designated national cake. Yet, because we allow peace to reign, we swallowed our pride, ate every inhuman stress and injustice being given to us. And now this. Ojuzo Kalu went on air. Those of you who don't even know that he is an Alhaji, it is better I make you understand his real name. He is Alhaji Mujahideen Ojuzo Kalu. He was the former governor of Abia State. It's unfortunate that this guy who carries the blood of an Abreba man, who everybody knew was a great industrialist and business mogul, the late Chief Nnanna Kalu of blessed memory, whose head office was at number 14 Jubilee Road, Aba. He was a great merchant in stockfish in the whole of South Sahara. Chief Nnanna Kalu was a stockfish magnate. He is the very man that established the Star Paper Mills, Aba. This was the man that seared the one you know today as Alhaji Mujahideen Ojuzo Kalu. Even though he grew up from his mother's side at Iberi, and whatever transpired in his tutelate years, the Abreba still regarded him as one of their own until when he started doing what he's doing. As a governor, he left Abia State worse. Abia became one of the most dirtiest cities. You go to Aba, even up to today, everywhere is in a mess. It is the foundation he laid. This same man was the one that brought criminality into the governance by making his own old mother first lady, first in history in the governances of Nigeria. The mother was the first lady of Abia State instead of the wife. Yet, Ndibo kept quiet. You can remember that when he left Abia State as a governor, he went up to become a senator. Because of the wicked treaties and the cabals who he was a stooge for, right from the days of IBB, General Badamasi Babangida, whom every one of you know as Maradona. Ojuzo was the same young man who handled the arms deal in the days of IBB when the student riots was in vogue, when he created a secret behind the scene student security using Asari Dokubo, another Alhaji Mujahideen. This was the days when you will hear court activities in tertiary institutions. Ojuzo was the supplier of weapons. That was how he made his first millions under the tutelage of Babangida. Today, he has come again to conclude the contract he had with the cabals. One of the secret documents that was signed by him with the present government was to make sure that he sold Ndibo to the caliphate. Some of you will not understand why he was jailed by the late Abba Kairi, who was a substantive head of state. The billions that was given to Ojuzo Kalu, he could not deliver in selling Ndibo to the caliphate. He had to vomit it. Hence, the late Abba Kairi, who was in charge of that deal, sentenced him to imprisonment. Some of you will remember the public disgrace he had. Yet, Ndibo, in the spirit of Onrubenwan Nabal also, had to fight and do everything possible until Abakari died and they brought him out. Today, the same Ojozo has been contracted to bring the Hausa Fulani military into Alibo, starting from Umunochi, Anuchuku, Abreba, Ibere, Item, the whole of the old Bende. He has declared war on the use of Ndibo. They want to suppress Umuibo. He has come out to say that what they did during Operation Python Dance will be repeated. That in the next 4 months from now, listen very carefully, Ndibo, in the next 4 months from now, that they will come to the bushes, anything they see, they kill. Have you all seen it now that our number one enemy in Igbo land is Ojozo Alhaji Mujahideen Ojozo Carlo and his cohorts? In that very bushes and farm that they will be going, innocent men and women and children and youths will be in the farm, eking a living, the little space of land left for them to sustain their life after every business has been siphoned by these wicked criminals. They want to go into the bushes to kill them so they can harvest their organs, take their parts for blood money rituals. These are the things that have been going on over the years and people never knew. Just like the case of Ekuremadu. These so-called people that present themselves as elites are the ones who has been killing Ndibo. And that is why we call upon the elders of Alibo to rise, the youths to rise, the elites to rise, the mothers to rise, the youths to rise and say no to this injustice and the likes of Alhaji Mujahideen Ojozo Carlo. We will not take it again this time around. Honoro Kare Ibeya Udo. Until we see again, I remain your security consultant, General Joskin Miracle Egwotu. Thank you.
This is the Broadcasting Corporation of Biafra, BCB.
Good day, Biafrans. This is Rosama, and this is BCB, the Broadcasting Corporation of Biafra. Fellow Biafrans, BCB asked Biafrans what keeps them awake. Some people told us hunger and poverty, money no day. One adult said, no work anywhere. Another said, jobs, education, no survival possibilities were also identified. As somebody simply put it, Aladdin. The economy, the political climate, disease, a failed or famished future are other areas of worry for people. But at the top of the list is insecurity, not political insecurity, but the fear of being kidnapped by some unknown gunmen or the marauding Fulani herdsmen, the horde, now terrorizing every region across the land. Everyone is afraid of kidnappers and the mayhem caused by these murderous Fulani hordes. Islamic State West Africa and Boko Haram do not figure prominently in the fears of Biafrans, but it is the Fulani herdsmen that threaten the land and have turned our land into a war zone. Greedy governors like Hope Uzodimma, Orji Uzo Kalu, and David Umahi of Ebonyi State, for instance, have sold or ceded our ancestral lands to these Fulani herdsmen for cattle ranching or settlement. Kalu's establishment of Gaki cattle market at Umunochi, Lokbanta, has harmed the community, leading to calls from locals to demolish or move the market. In July, Sahara Reporters New York reported that some angry youth of northern extraction had, quote, blocked a major highway in Abia State to protest against incessant attacks and killing of herders and cows by unknown gunmen, unquote, claiming that, quote, the situation has affected their movement, thereby making it impossible for them to exercise freedom of movement in search of their daily livelihood, unquote. The article also added that, quote, some residents of Abia State recently demanded the immediate relocation of the regional cattle market at Lokbanta, which they alleged provides cover for criminal herdsmen behind incessant kidnappings in the area, unquote. In response, the article continued, quote, the government a few days ago embarked on the demolition of brothels and shanties at the regional cattle market, saying that they now serve as hideouts for criminals terrorizing people around the area. It also said that the demolished shanties had since been converted into a haven for hard drug traffickers, adding that a kidnapper was recently arrested in one of the shanties, unquote. The situation at Lokbanta, which has increasingly destabilized the community and rendered it insecure, is a microcosm of the horrendous decisions of these corrupt, greedy governors who do not consult the communities before imposing harmful policies on them. But when communities challenge these governors, they threaten them with force or send their security enforcers or their known gunmen to shoot and kill with impunity the citizens, the very people that these governors have sworn to protect. In other words, the government, the governors have failed to protect their own people. They have failed their people, confirming what observers have said Nigeria is a failed state. Quote, the 157 slain security personnel are among thousands of people killed in the first half of 2022, with about 3,000 people killed in the first 3 months. The killings spread across the country, but were mostly carried out in the southeast, northwest, and north central regions, unquote. This cannot be security for anybody. Reporting in early August, PunchNigeria.com states that, quote, at least 7,222 Nigerians have been killed and 3,823 abducted as the country witnessed 2,840 incidents of insecurity between January 1 and July 29, 2022, unquote. We are only in August, and the numbers are not declining. Punch also adds that, quote, also, no fewer than 1,499 people were injured during the various attacks witnessed in 505 local government areas in the country, unquote. On Saturday, August 21st, messages came through the social media to many of us on several WhatsApp platforms that gunmen had kidnapped 4 nuns in Imo State. They were traveling from Rivers State to Imo State to attend a Thanksgiving service. This kidnapping comes only 3 months after the prelate of the Methodist Church was abducted by gunmen in the region. Remember that his abductors only released him after they were paid a ransom of about 100 million naira. The kidnapping of religious figures, school children, and individuals from villages and communities, or the highway, churches, and schools has now become the order of the day and quick means of securing funds for these abductors, who range from Boko Haram to Islamic State West Africa, the Fulani herdsmen, and the so-called unknown gunmen. Road travel has now become even more dangerous than before, when people's only concern was the bad road condition. The question BCB asks is, where are the so-called leaders of these states? Where are those people who swore oaths to protect their people? Where are those security people whose goal should be protecting the citizens of their communities? The current government of Buhari, with its inept security people, seem unable to stop these kidnappers who are raging through the land like ferocious tigers or wolves. BCB finds it ironic that while these domestic terrorists, gunmen, and kidnappers play hide and seek in plain sight with Buhari and his stooges, including the governors of most of the southeastern states, the same leaders spend inordinate amount of resources harassing innocent civilians in their states, destroying their property, killing young people, disappearing our youth. These leaders, all so-called governors, self-appointed thugs, unleash their security, or should we call them insecurity forces, on our people, murdering many and depriving our people of their human rights and dignity. How does one justify these actions or define them as peace building? For whom are these misguided, corrupt government officials providing security? How can one achieve peace by waging war on the very people with whom or to whom you have promised peace? Even more absurd is a recent development as announced by Arise News, in which Buhari's government met with the murderous terrorist Fulani herdsmen, Meati Allah, and agreed to pay them about 200 billion naira over 2 years in order to buy peace. Imagine this, 200 billion naira over 2 years to a terrorist group that has created chaos across the land. How is this not insanity? How is this not absurdity of the highest kind? These are the same group of people that have been terrorizing and rampaging communities across Nigeria, kidnapping our people, raping women and girls, destroying agricultural lands, and forcing large populations of people into states of displacement. How does a government that claims a commitment to democracy, justice, and the rule of law find it absolutely necessary to pay a terrorist group 200 billion naira over 2 years? Meanwhile, the same government holds Mazi Nnamdi Kanu in prison for simply asking for freedom for his people. How is that justice? The Fulani herdsmen have been classified as the 4th most terrorist group in the world by the World Terror Index. Their numbers and violent activities have increased since 2015, especially after Buhari became president. Many people have speculated that his presidency, in fact, guaranteed safety or security for these marauding terrorists who have traveled across the Sahel into our communities. They have no homes to protect, no property to safeguard except their cattle. They have a singular goal, conquest of the lands and the people they encounter. And our communities are their trophies. Critics also point to Buhari's implementation of the Ruga or open grazing policy as a public endorsement of the group. And now, the same federal government of Buhari is rewarding them by paying them for their acts of violence with 200 billion naira over 2 years. What will they offer them next? As Benue State Governor Samuel Ortom has said on Arise TV, the federal government of Nigeria is complicit in creating the insecurity in the country by its refusal to stop the Fulani herdsmen. While visiting the State Department in Washington, D.C. about a month ago, Governor Ortom, as cited in Arise News, quote, called upon the United States and the rest of the international community to hold the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari accountable for the spate of violence in Nigeria, unquote. The article continued that the governor stated that, quote, he was at the State Department to present the traumatized Nigerian victims' side of the story after discovering that wrong narratives were being circulated across the globe by the Buhari-led administration to shield itself from complicity, unquote. Continuing, the governor said the false narrative of herder-farmer clashes was deliberately crafted to delay farmers' doomsday until they were gradually wiped out and their ancestral lands confiscated. The truth is that farming population in Nigeria is under siege and is being decimated. Agriculture is gradually dying and food security is being threatened, unquote. Ortom is correct. The destruction of farmlands by the Fulani cattle herdsmen and the presence of these herdsmen in the bushes are raising the spectra of food insecurity in communities across the nation and in Biafra land. This year alone, many farmers in Biafra abandoned their farms because they were afraid of being murdered, kidnapped, or attacked by the herdsmen hiding in the bushes, as several people informed BCB. We ask, is this the life we want? Is this the life we are promising our people? We cannot live in a state of siege in perpetuity. Quote, I cannot live in Nigeria and be a slave to any tribe, Ortom declares. Yes, we agree, and no one should. Listen to him.
I'm concerned the federal government is complicit. The day they want this insurgency to finish, it will be done. Actively, they are working with Turkey, they are working with Saudi Arabia, they are working with everything to Islamize. But the real agenda is to take over Nigeria. And all these insurgents that you see happening is from Mauritania, is from Senegal, is from Cameroon, is from all over the place, trying to ensure that the indigenous people of this country do not have a say, but the Fulanis have a say. We are not against Fulani people. In government here in Benue State, I have Fulani people who are in my government. I have no issue about Fulanis, indigenous people. Everybody in this country, Nigeria, comes from somewhere. Even the Tea people, where I govern today as governor, they come from somewhere. But we have settled. Today, because of the rise in population, there is nowhere you can say that the Tea people or Benue people should leave Benue State to go to Cameroon. Where is the land? To go to where? Where is the land? And so this is the main problem that we're having in this country. If these governments will appreciate and stop deceit against the people, we shall all work as a team. Nigerians, wherever we come, let us cohabit and live together. But where a particular ethnic group wants to take over the country and make some of us slaves, I can never be a slave to anyone. It is better I die and not be alive. I cannot be a slave to any Fulani man. Fulani should live their life. The Tea people should live their life. The Yoruba people should live their life. Hausa people should live their life. Every other person should live their life. But not making me your slave.
You have heard him. We cannot be enslaved, neither by the North nor by the Fulanis. In fact, I recall one of the songs we used to sing during the war was that we cannot be enslaved or bow to the North, and definitely not to the Fulanis, never. Not to any group, never. We are descendants of people who refuse to be subjugated, not by the British, not by any group. We cannot come into the 21st century or any century and bow down to these people, these landless people who want to excavate the bones of our ancestors, drive us off our lands, and settle on our lands with their cattle. It cannot happen. And Ortom is absolutely, absolutely correct. In another interview, Ortom wondered why people are keeping quiet while these murderous Fulani herdsmen destroy communities. BCB asks the same question. We join Ortom in asking, why are you silent while the government pays these murderers people 200 billion naira, while holding Mazi Nnamdi Kanu in captivity for simply saying his people want their freedom? Biafrans want peace. Mind you, the 200 billion naira is money that was earned from resources under your soil, under Biafran earth. BCB calls on you to wake up. Wake up. BCB also calls for the unconditional release of Nnamdi Kanu, whose human rights and dignity are being violated with impunity. Agitating for one's freedom is not a crime. It is guaranteed by the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. My people, fellow Biafrans, we leave you with these thoughts and Ortom's comments. Biafrans want peace, unconditional peace, and the preservation of their human rights and dignity. We cannot be terrorized by anyone. We have not terrorized anyone. We have not called for the subjugation of any group. We neither seek to subjugate any group, nor to deny them of their rights, nor to drive them off their lands. Rather, we want to live in peace and security, not servitude to any group or any government, domestic, internal, or external. So, Biafrans, you must examine your role in securing Biafran freedom. Where are you? Where do you stand? What must you do for your freedom? You must ask what you are currently doing to preserve your communities, and what you must do to preserve your communities if the people you have elected or trusted cannot provide you protection. Biafrans, you no longer have the privilege of flight. Ortom has said it. Where are you going to fly to? Where are you going to run to? To the sea? You will drown. As Bob Marley says, the sea will be boiling. And the sea is already boiling. Where will you run to, really? We are talking of our homeland. Do you wish to abandon it to invaders without even fighting to defend it? You must organize your communities to protect your lives, your family's lives, your children's lives, your ancestral lands against the terrors of these gunmen and kidnappers, be they local or the Fulani herdsmen. Remember that they are only human beings. Yes, they carry weapons, but you, as a community banded together, represents the strongest weapon against these terrorists. Organize yourselves in community defense units. We did that during the war. Stop running. Stop running. Stop running. Defend and protect yourselves and your communities. Remember, these people count on you being afraid. They count on us running because we are afraid. They count on us not coming to the defense of one another. They count on us fleeing from our homes and abandoning our homes to them, abandoning our farmlands to them, abandoning our businesses to them. Each time they have attacked us, whether in their own areas, in Kano, in Kaduna, in Jos, in Zaria, in Sokoto, even in Lagos, and also in our own communities, these people have counted on our fears. So it is time to stop running. It is time to fight back. It is time to rise up and defend yourselves. It is time to wake up, and it is time to get wiser. This is time for survival. It is time to stand and fight back. We want to thank our sponsor, BGIE, the Biafran Government in Exile, for supporting our work. We also acknowledge the work of other pro-Biafra groups, including IPOB, Simon Ekpa and Autopilot, as well as Bilie Human Rights Initiative, to mention a few. May you remain steadfast in this struggle. We want to thank and encourage our people, those on the ground at home and across the diaspora who continue to sustain this struggle. May the ancestors guide you and hold you safely. Long may you live, and long live Biafra. Aluta continua. You are listening to BCB, the Broadcasting Corporation of Biafra. We bring you accurate and researched information and news about Biafra and Biafrans in the homeland and the diaspora. We invite you to join us again. If you like us, subscribe to our YouTube channel or Facebook platform. Email us at bcb1967biafra@gmail.com. This is Rosama. Let's get wiser. And this is the Broadcasting Corporation of Biafra, BCB.
Rising soul, hey, rising soul, yeah. Biafra is the only hope of Africa. freedom. Believe it or leave it, Biafra is the only hope of Africa. We've been crying, the world claim not to hear. And we've been lamenting, the world claim not to hear. Our tears flow, the world claim not to see. And our blood flow, the world claim not to see. This is a crime, oh no, against humanity. Oh no, yeah, this is a crime. Eritrea spoke up, they were given independence. South Sudan spoke, they were given independence. Namibia spoke up, they were given independence. Give me the reason my people got to be neglected. Give me the reason my people got to be rejected. Give me the reason our freedom got to be a crime. Give me the reason our own freedom got to be denied. Hey, Biafra is the only hope of Africa. I tell you what, Biafra is the only hope of Africa. Hey, Biafra is the only hope of Africa. Believe it or leave it. Oh no. That was physical battle, and we're betrayed by the people them trust. Today's heroes are fighting. This is a spiritual battle. Let us unite and give Biafra a meaning. If we don't take time, we got to remain in this slavery. No freedom of speech, no freedom of expression, no freedom of worship, no freedom of religion. Justice denied, oh no, of my own very people. Hey, justice denied, hey, on the rising sun. Hey, justice denied. Oh, my freedom fighter. Yeah. What is so bad? My people wanna be liberated. What is so bad? My people wanna be independent. What is so bad? My people wanna be alone. This is the time we will make it known to the world. Hey, Biafra is the only hope of Africa. Biafra is the only hope of Africa. Biafra is the only hope of Africa. I tell you what, Biafra is the only hope of Africa. Hospitality, positive education, positive economic, positive hospitality. I tell you what, positive. Biafra is the only hope of Africa. Biafra is the only hope of Africans. I tell you what, Biafra is the only hope of Africa. Hey, Biafra is the only hope of Africa. My people will cry. Biafrans will cry. My people are suffering. Oh, Biafrans cry.
Thank you for listening to us today. Join us next time for news, cultural, and educational programs. This is the Broadcasting Corporation of Biafra, BCB.
Hail to